going to be looking at the Calgary Flames 2022 offseason. Probably the most exciting offseason of any team in recent memory, I would say. With absolutely massive trades and massive signings. Okay, so starting out with the trades the Flames made this offseason, and it's the first one, July 22nd, 2022. After knowing that Tkachuk wasn't going to re-sign with the team, well, technically he did re-sign, but it was a trade and sign and trade. They traded Matthew Tkachuk with a 4th round pick, conditional, and in exchange, absolutely massive package, Jonathan Huberdeau, Mackenzie Weegar, prospect Cole Schwindt, and a 1st round pick. Now, there are lottery protected conditions on the first, but it is in 2025, so we'll see how that pans out. But general thoughts on the trade, Huberdeau, massive first line contributor. He's going to replace Goudreau's 115 points on the first line. Weegar really solidifies the defense. And Schwindt, maybe Treliving was quoted as saying he might be a solid middle 6 forward yet in a couple of years, so we'll see. And as for the 1st round pick, it's way too far out to see. And on top of that, Huberdeau was re-signed 8 years, $10.5 million, so he's sticking around for the long haul. Weegar has not re-signed yet, expiring contract, so we'll see about that. Tkachuk, of course, also 9.5 times 8 years. So both teams got what they wanted out of the deal, but I think Calgary would be the winner. Moving on to the second trade the Flames made this offseason, trading Sean Monahan and a conditional 1st to Montreal in exchange for future considerations. Now, of course, it is a 2025 1st, so 3 years in the future, so we'll see where the Flames are at in that point, but it's assumed they'll still be contenders. There are a lot of conditions on the pick, you can read it up if you want. But getting rid of Monahan's full cap hit was the reason for this trade, and that leads us to the next signing, Nazim Kadri, with a 7x7 contract. So it does run until he is 31, so we will see how well it ages, but he does project to be the elite 2nd line center. Really give some depth behind Lindholm so Backlund can slot into the 3rd line. Now in terms of other players that they re-signed, Mangiapane re-ups for a 3-year, 5.8 AAV. He did break out with 35 goals last season, so it'll be interesting to see if he can continue that. Shillington also breakout season, 2 years, 2.5 million, along with a bunch of other depth signings and re-signing prospects, stuff like that. Rooney, 4th line center most likely, 2 years, 1.3 million, and that bring back Lewis on a 1-year deal. And besides that, there are a couple PTOs. Sonny Milano was not RFA from the Ducks, was not tendered, which is surprising to almost everybody. He did get a PTO from the Flames along with Michael Stone and Cody Eakin. So, and also on top of that, Brett Ritchie is rumored to have a 1-year deal. We'll see how many more years him and Stone are going to be coming back on 1-year deals. So we'll see about that. On top of that, a side note, Adam Ruzicka is still in the RFA in the Flames system. I'm not sure if he's going to be re-signed or what the deal is with that. He did get into a limited sample size last year, did put up a couple points, but we'll see how that all works out. Okay, so it turns out that Brett Ritchie has actually just signed a 1-year deal with a $750K cap hit. He was rumored to be signing a 1-year deal for some time now, and now it's finalized. With Ritchie, really just, you know exactly what you're getting. 4th line grinder, so around the body, get a couple points. He put up 4 points in 41 games last season, just a 4th line physical presence. And also Adam Ruzicka, who was an RFA, he has now signed 2 years, $762,500 per season. Last year, Ruzicka, he did get into some bottom 6 time, 10 points, 28 games. Hopefully he can get more time in the Flames forward group this season. Some other storylines are Jacob Pelche. He did look good in the rookie tournament, and we'll see how good he looks going to the preseason. He might make the forward lineup, but we'll see how that all turns out. Also, Chris Tanev, he was injured last year in the playoffs. It really did show in the Oilers series. He came back for the last couple games, but he was very shaky. So he was skating with the team, so we'll see if he'll be ready for the preseason and possibly the regular season. and also Juuso Välimäki. With all of these additional depth signings, or trade for Uyghur, they also signed Nick Milosh on D. So we will see if Välimäki gets legitimate NHL ice time or if he will be traded this year. Because he was a former first round pick, so he probably won't live up to that top pairing potential. Okay, so with that all being said, how good are the Calgary Flames going to be this year? Now, after last year's disappointing loss versus the Oilers in the second round, well, controversially anyways, that could be a whole nother video, the Coleman goal. But this year, they're a legitimate contender. I know this is what we said last year, but legitimately, they are set for a deep run. They have the best overall defense in the league, arguably. Even though they don't boast a top star like Makar or Yossi, they do have a solid group of guys. Their starting lineup on D: Noah Hannafin, Rasmus Andersson, Chris Tanev if he is ready for the season, Nikita Zadorov, who I also forgot to mention, re-upped for 2 years, $3.75 million. A bit of an overpay, but he is only 27, so it really shouldn't hurt the team at all. Good physical, defensive defenseman, along with Mackenzie Weegar and Oliver Shillington. Now that is an absolutely formidable top six, with the possibility of Välimäki slotting in the bottom pair if he can make the team, but I just don't see who he's going to beat out for that final spot. And also, on goaltending, Jacob Markstrom, the Vezina runner-up last year, absolutely amazing year last year. Despite being 32 years of age, he did still have a .922 save percentage and a 2.22 goals against average, which are really good numbers. We're top 3 in every category and led the league with 9 shutouts. Now, and he was also an absolute brick wall against Dallas in the first year of the playoffs, but as a Flames fan, we would like to forget that Oilers series as much as possible. And the backup, Dan Vladar, he did get into limited action last year. He is 25 years of age. He did have a .906 and a .275 stat line in 23 games, which are alright stats, but we'll see if he can improve on that this year, with the number 3 Wolf having an amazing AHL goalie of the year. He might be challenging for the backup as soon as this year or next year. Now, moving on to the forwards, which, despite the loss of 2 100-point players in Gaudreau and Tkachuk, the Flames are still more than capable of having a solid offense. Now, on the top line projected, we have Huberdeau, centered by Lindholm, and with either Toffoli or Mangiapane on the top line right wing. I'm leaning more towards Mangiapane because last year he did show more of a scoring touch with 35 goals, and compared to Toffoli, who did not fare quite as well. He only scored 20 goals last year. He did have a hot start with the Flames, but he did cool off. So most likely we'll see Toffoli on the second line with the newly signed Nazim Kadri, as well as maybe Blake Coleman. So yeah, on the second line we'll see probably Toffoli, Kadri, and maybe Blake Coleman. And third line, Dubé, centered by Backlund, also with Cap Friendly has Trevor Lewis slot in for the third line right wing. And on the fourth line, Milan Lucic, absolute GOAT, what a legend. Expiring contract, by the way, hopefully he gets re-signed. Kevin Rooney and Brett Ritchie. Now, Pelche might slot into the bottom 6 somewhere. He did have a great AHL season last year, point per game. And also the PTOs of Cody Eakin, Sonny Milano they might both get signed, they might both not get signed, so we will see if they make the bottom 6 or not, if they do get a contract from the Flames. Alright, so with that all being said, with their entire lineup, I do project them finishing in the top 3 of the Pacific and making the playoffs. It will be interesting to see whether they can beat the Oilers out for the Pacific Division crown again in this regular season. The Pacific Division, my guess is Oilers 1, Flames 2, and hopefully we can see them match up in the playoffs again, because that Battle of Alberta last year, we really got gypped. It should have gone like the full 7 games. And those are just my thoughts on the Flames. Alright, so if you enjoyed this and want to continue to see me make more hockey content, consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel, and I'll talk to you all soon.